to Getting Grounded, the open and honest conversation about the transition of parenthood and everything that comes along with it. The joy, the chaos, the fulfillment, the challenge, the identity shifts, the relationship changes. Let's talk about it all. Today we are here with a very good friend of mine. It's actually our first ever installment of my Mom Friends segment, where I have really good friends of mine on to talk about real life mom and parent shit. So today I'm joined by Amanda, who's one of my lovely, lovely friends in DC. And I'm so grateful that you exist for so many reasons. And we'll talk about all the ways we met and all the things. But we'll just talk about mom life, relationships, marriage. But the biggest impact is IVF, because you have a very, very detailed, long story on that I can't relate to. So I just want to talk to you about it. A lot of people have gone through it, and I think it'll be really, really helpful. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure all the other guests are famous, so I'll be the first non-famous.
You are famous. Get out of here. You are famous. And if you're, I don't know why you're not famous, actually. You give famous energy to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, first, I just want to talk about how we met and how we know each other and all the things, because that in and of itself is, and I'm so curious to hear your perspective, because mine on it is I don't think, and the four of us that have gotten so close, I don't know that without you guys, I would have gotten through those early postpartum days. And we got really lucky, but so I tell a lot of friends now to make find a mom's group, join anything, because there's something really special about having really close friends that are going through exactly what you're going through. The exact same timing, the exact same, babies, things change so rapidly. And have someone to be is this normal? Why is my kid not talking? Is your kid doing this? And to celebrate the wins. What I love so much about our friend group is we can text each other my kid's doing this that seems really crazy. And we're yay, my kids know the alphabet. And you guys are they're
That's so normal.
16 months old.
I think what makes our group of friends unique is that we all have very different parenting styles, and yet no one judges one another. We all it works really well in a way that is sort of unexpected. I feel sometimes in parenthood, you sort of are sort of attracted to people who do things the same way that you, or might sort of have the same style. And I feel that we all have sort of very different parenting techniques, and yet it sort of works seamlessly. It's also interesting, obviously, Sam, you have twins. I have two kids that are a couple years apart. And while our oldest are all the same, you all have been there for me as I've experienced parenthood a second time. And you already had experience as a two-time mom. That said, your kids are the same age. So you, I have, confided in Danielle, who understands sort of having a different age gap and things like that. And I feel we've navigated that really well. I also think what's interesting about this friend group is that everyone's husbands also get along.
Yeah.
And the kids like each other. It's just a really cool dynamic that way, because I don't know, I sometimes feel you have friends and you really like the women, but you don't necessarily love their husbands or spending time with them. And I think we just have a lot of good quality family time together. And it's really shaped my experience with motherhood thoroughly. I also think we're friends outside of motherhood, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
We don't just talk about that. It could be a career win or something going on with someone's family, things like that. I'm so grateful for it. That's all.
Yeah, I know. It's lovely to reflect on, because I do forget, I always am grateful for how lucky we are in the part that I first said, but I forget how lucky we are in all of it. It is really rare. We have our kids will grow up together, they love each other. It's so sweet. I mean, it's hard to say that for a 2.5-year-old, but really they do. They're so pumped. My kids talk about all of their little friends all the time. And you're right. All our husbands are friends, and all our husbands are really nice people.
Yes.
I love them all. So you're right. It's a very lucky find. But I feel even if people find one of that, right? It just could help you a lot. Yeah. And it also is really funny when you mentioned the parenting styles, because I've heard you say that before. And I've had people once ask me, something about, I was going home and they were oh, how are your friends' parenting styles? And I was oh, I don't notice. Like and so like you being like right now you've said this before, like we all parent so differently. I'm like, do we? Do we
We
all
do.
parent so
We
differently?
do.
Do you know the styles? Like, would you
I
label
don't like
us?
have names for them, but we
Okay.
definitely have friends who take things slower.
Or
Someone like you is more like holistic in terms of wellness and like sort of
okay.
anti-sleep training. Those are like things that like sort of you've adapted. And I mean, if someone in the group, I'm probably the one who like pushes my kids to do things like my kid already
Right.
sleeps in his own bed and he doesn't use pacifiers and he's potty trained, right?
Right.
Because that's just like kind of me as a person. I'm a little bit like pushy, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, but yet like that works. Like it's totally fine. Like I don't care that you do things differently than me, you know?
Right. Actually glad I asked because now I understand the frame because when I think of parenting styles, like I think about how people relate to their children and how they
And
like
that's the same, right? That's the goal
right,
of our
like
group.
how they
Is all of
communicate.
us love our kids more than words could ever describe. And you
Exactly.
want to think that everyone feels that way, but not everyone does.
Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your head around not.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all like communicate with our children the same way. We have boundaries. We like,
Yep.
we teach them important things. And that I noticed that we all pretty much do very similarly. So when I think about it, I'm like, are they different? But you're right. Like there's so much more to it than that we have done very differently. And is like, to your point, totally accepted. Like you're right. I couldn't hack and can't hack sleep training. I still go in my kids' rooms at night. Like it's like all those things. I'll be the parent that the 8-year-old is sleeping in their bed, like whatever. And you and I have zero judgment on, I talked to
Mhm.
you guys about it, like asked you for tips, like maybe thought about it. And I hope that when my 8-year-old is in my bed, you'll just be like, okay, that's
We'll
Sam.
just laugh because that's
Yeah.
your life choice and that's okay, right?
Right,
It
right,
doesn't impact me.
right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. So that is part one. And then moving into part two, well, there's going to be part 7,000 in this conversation. But tell us about yourself and whatever about your journey into motherhood that you're comfortable with,
Sure.
and just about Amanda as a human.
Well, I'm Amanda. I'm a mom to two. My son is same age as Sam's kid, so about to turn 3. And then I also have a daughter who's 9 months. Um, Professionally, I do healthcare communications consulting. So that's good, but a very busy career. And I married my college boyfriend, and we've been together, I guess, 12 or so years now. Um, our journey to parenthood was, sorry, I still, all these years later, get choked up talking about it a little
Yeah.
bit. So give me a second. Our journey to parenthood was really challenging. We started trying to have kids about 2 years after we got married. So we were really young. We were only
Yeah.
28.
I was just going to say, how old were you?
We are
Yeah.
two
Okay.
young, healthy, not overweight people with no health conditions. And so we naturally thought we would get pregnant very quickly. We had wanted to start trying before then, but it was the COVID pandemic. And we both didn't feel comfortable starting to try to have kids until we were fully vaccinated against COVID. We just felt like I would feel more comfortable being pregnant knowing that I had immunity because neither of us had COVID yet. So we sort of waited until that had all passed until we started trying. We got pregnant immediately. We went on a lovely vacation to Hawaii. Hopefully our last trip together. Came back 2 weeks later, had a lovely pregnancy test, called and told my parents on their wedding anniversary, the whole thing.
Oh my God, I didn't
And
know
like 2
that.
days later started bleeding. And went to the gynecologist and we did some like hormone testing and it showed that my like pregnancy levels were really low. They just sent this message in a portal. They did not call, talk to me about next steps, tell me that I was experiencing a miscarriage. It felt very clinical. And it hurt a lot. And one of my best friends was getting married that weekend, and I had to go to her wedding and pretend like nothing was happening, despite the fact that I was like having the heaviest period of my entire life. But I didn't want to make it about me because I had only known I was pregnant for a few days,
Yeah.
but yet like my whole life was already like getting excited about what was to come, like I was already just like moving in that direction. So we, kept trying, didn't think anything of it. And a few other times we got pregnant, found out very early on, and then the pregnancies never progressed.
How many times did you get pregnant?
2 or 3. At this point, like some of the
Wow.
details I've honestly like blocked out because it was just like so like challenging. And
Yeah.
again, these were so early that sometimes the test would be like so faint, but like my hope was up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then after about 8 months, I saw my OBGYN and she did all the hormone testing, everything came back completely normal. And she said, let's just go do an ultrasound and just like make sure like nothing is going on, though like nothing is indicative of anything being wrong. Next day, they happened to have an opening. Someone canceled, and I went and did it as quickly as possible, again, thinking nothing of it. And right as they began the ultrasound, she said, oh, it looks like you have a cyst on your ovary. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's the cause. She was very calm, cool, and collected about it. Then I would say about 10 minutes into the scan, she went completely silent and stopped talking to me. And this went on for an entire hour. She just like kept scanning. And she sort of left the appointment telling me that she wasn't able to really give me any guidance, but that I would likely need to seek fertility treatments based on what she saw.
Oh my
So the
God.
next morning, I basically call my OB like repeatedly. I had switched OBs, by the way, because the first one I was so traumatized by how she dealt with the whole thing.
Yeah.
She called and told me, and she said, we can see both of your fallopian tubes on the ultrasound, and we shouldn't be able to see them at all. And so they will likely need to be removed in entirety. And so she referred me to a fertility clinic, Shady Grove Fertility. It's like the biggest clinic here in the DC area. Unfortunately, they had a 6-week wait. So I waited 6 more weeks to go see them. I met with my doctor, who's fantastic, but she said, we cannot do the surgery that you need. So you need to go see another OP who can do the surgery. So I waited another 6 weeks to go see another doctor. That doctor was so rude to me. He told me that I was having this issue because I had, quote, had too much fun in college. That was the phrase that he used.
My whole body like responds. I know this part of the story, and it just makes me want to kill somebody.
It stung so much because the type of infertility I have can be caused by undiagnosed chlamydia. But I had, like, I've been with my husband, as you know, for 12 years, like since we were in college, like, and I have never done anything promiscuous or things like that. So it just hurt. And again, there was nothing backing up that I'd ever.
Right. Like, who are you to make that assumption?
It was a complete assumption on his end, which, by the way, was further validated when I had testing done that showed that I had no antibodies towards chlamydia. So no, I actually, in fact, had never had it. I guess, again, now we're 10 or 11 months into the journey. He basically told me he wasn't willing to take me on as a patient and referred me to another doctor. I left the appointment in tears. It was the Friday before Mother's Day. And I spent the entirety of my Mother's Day just crying, just thinking about the fact that it just like felt like this was never going to happen. Again, at this point, I'm only 29, Yeah. And luckily that doctor was so kind, and he was able to do the surgery to remove my fallopian tubes. It was on my mom's 60th birthday, so I missed her whole party.
Oh.
I had to delay it because my brother was getting married, and, I wanted to make sure that I was there for him. I guess I was really hopeful that I would come out of the surgery and they would find that it wasn't needed. Like, I had this false sense of hope, but when I woke up, they told me that they had to remove them entirely.
Did they ever figure out why? It was
they
just
think that I had a bunch of UTIs as a child, and they think that at one point it might just not have been resolved and it like worked its way up into the fallopian tube. But they will never actually know that for sure.
Because before this scan, like, they could have been blocked the whole time. Like, you'd never know, or
They could have been, but I had never tried to get pregnant, so I really just don't know. Like, there's no symptoms of having a blocked tube because I still have regular periods and everything like that. It doesn't impact anything like that.
Wild.
So, yeah, so I had the surgery done, and in typical Amanda fashion, as I said, I get things done efficiently.
Yes.
Less than 10 days after I had the surgery, I started doing injections for IVF.
Oh my God.
Yes. I was just determined. I mean, at this point, it had been over a year since I'd started trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And I just, at that point, just needed to know it worked. So I started the injections. I did my egg retrieval 10 days later, again, after putting hormones in your body multiple times a day through shots. It was horrible. 5 days later, they were able to, I had an embryo that was ready to transfer, and we just went for it. And that turned into my son, Wes. And I'm so thankful that it worked so quickly and efficiently, because that is not everyone's IVF experience.
Right. Yeah.
But just like the experience with infertility in general, like has 100% like shaped like who I am as a person. And, you know, my experience in motherhood and just navigating, talking about pregnancy and people becoming pregnant, like while I hated being pregnant both times I did it, every minute of it I took for granted. Like I never took being able to be pregnant for granted, because I know that is like not everyone's, you know, experience. And, you know, again, I'm thankful it worked again to get pregnant with my daughter Abby on the first try. But it also meant like a month of appointments, injections, and insurance. We have no coverage. And just a transfer for my daughter with an embryo I already had was over $9,000.
Oh my God.
So like addition to the emotional like trauma of all of it, like it comes with financial consequences. Like if it hadn't worked with Abby, we would have done it again for another $9,000 to have another kid. So again, so grateful it worked out. But I think so often people make comments like, oh, well, it all worked out. Aren't you so thankful? No, I'm not thankful that I had to go through this horrible experience, and that everyone else just gets to have fun and it happens for free. And so I guess I sort of push back on that language when people like make that kind of comment, which people make all the time, you know, that they don't mean it the way that it comes across, you know?
I know people don't know what to say. This is like totally unrelated, but it does remind me of the first like fights Michael and I would have after my brother died, because he would want to say all the like uplifting things like, well, you had 31 great years with him, or like, you're so lucky you had that relationship. And I'm like, I'm not fucking lucky.
No, my brother died. It fucking sucked.
Like the end. It sucks. It sucks that you went through this journey, period. Like that's it. Right. And it's people just want to say something that is going to make the other person feel better.
But sometimes people just want to relate that things suck. And that's okay, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And that is an interesting point too, because it is one of the things we were going to talk about. Like, what should or can people say? Like, I do have friends, a lot of friends actually, that have gone through this or were going through this or are going through this. And I remember when we did have as you know, we had an easy time getting pregnant, and then happened to have 2 kids on the first shot. And I remember there were some friends that I was like, I didn't want to share the news with, because I felt I didn't want to make them feel any kind of way. It feels bad. I mean, for me, I don't know that I'm sure everyone feels this way. I don't know that like when you say that it's like, you don't want to say like, oh, it was easy, we got pregnant so quickly, like all these parts of the story that you're hesitant to share because you don't want to, but then also at the same time, like they're your best friends and you know they'd want to share in your news. So like, how does that feel receiving that? What is the delicate balance?
Yeah, when for full transparency, when Sam asked me to do this was the number one thing I said I think we should chat about, because it's probably the number one question that I personally get asked in terms of like, how do I navigate this? I have a friend going through infertility, or I have a friend who's had recurrent pregnancy loss and I'm pregnant. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So a couple of things. I think your friends want to share in your joy, and it is only fair and hard to understand unless you've experienced this, that you can be happy for someone else and simultaneously gutted for yourself.
Yeah.
And just because someone doesn't react the way that you want them to your pregnancy news does not mean that they're not happy for you. They're just going through something on their own.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think you just have to like take that for granted. So if I had a friend who was, you know, I'm in your scenario, a couple of things. To be totally frank, I wouldn't tell them it was an easy time getting pregnant, because that doesn't matter to them, right? You can share that with all your girlfriends. I've had a couple of friends who've had a few drinks and they just kept saying how easy it was. And I just said, can we just not share that detail? It's just like something I don't need thrown in my face like over and over again. And I know it's not something you're like meaning to say that's upsetting me, but it is. You know? And so like, I just frankly don't think that's a detail that you need to share.
That's such a good point.
Right? Like, share it with the other friends. How I would do it if I was in that situation, and this could be a baby shower, telling someone you're pregnant, etc. I would tell them via text. I would not share it to their face, because they're going to need a little bit of time to process the news.
Okay.
I would not wait to share the news, because as soon as you start to tell other friends, it could potentially get to the friend who's who is having a hard time. And if it gets to them and they feel like they didn't tell you, you didn't tell them directly, it's going to actually hurt more.
Okay.
So what I would do is when you feel comfortable and you've started to tell friends you're pregnant or, you're having a baby shower or whatever, I would just send a text that says, "Hi, I'm thinking about you. I hope this is a good time to share this news. I just wanted to let you know that I'm pregnant. I'm due X time period. I know this is probably hard for you to hear with everything that you have going on right now. I'm here for you. I love you. I recognize if you need to take a step back from our friendship right now while you process this, and I can share what and if you feel comfortable with. I love you."
Yeah.
And I would leave it like that with no expectations that they'll respond. But most women are going to respond saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you." And they really mean it,
Yeah.
but they just might need time to process that. Where if you share it in person, like with a big group of people,
Mm.
the reaction, it can be honestly kind of gutting, especially when it feels like everyone around you is getting pregnant, which it really does feel like that at the time. It'll be interesting if she ever listens to this. She doesn't know this. My cousin, who's a number of years older than me, got pregnant with her kid who's 17 years younger than her other kid while I was trying to get pregnant. And when they posted that they were having a baby, I just called my mom absolutely hysterically bawling. And it wasn't that she got pregnant. It was that I was like, everyone can get pregnant other than me. It just felt very personal, even though it wasn't. All this comes to show, talking with her more, they had a lot of difficulty getting pregnant and maintaining pregnancies, but I didn't know any of that, right? So internally it felt like, oh, it's so easy for everyone else, And so that's sort of how I would navigate it. I would send a text. I wouldn't expect a response, even though you'll likely get one. And just let them process it and know you're continued to be there for your friend. But recognize some people might need to take a step back. That kind of thing never bothered me, but some people might feel like, they don't want to know all the pregnancy news.
Yeah.
Which can be hard.
Totally. I think that's an excellent way to do it. And the way you worded your text is beautiful. And with lack of expectation, I think is really important. And because you're right, a lot of people will respond and feel that way, but some won't. We have a very close friend here, which is going to be one of my follow-up questions, is unrelated to if you're pregnant, but that she was having a hard time all across the board. So hard time, couldn't get pregnant for forever, but then none of the transfers working, none of the extractions are working. That's not the word.
The egg retrievals?
Yes, thank you. But just hard time across the board. And thank God they're pregnant right now, which I'm so happy
for them.
Yes. All good outcome now. But it was as bad as it could be, right? And they just never gave up. And so I think for her, she did need to take a step back from those friendships. She did hate hearing the news. She couldn't hang out with friends that had kids. It was just all too much in her face. And so for me, I wholeheartedly understood. It was if we wanted to still see them. So it would be let's hang out after bedtime. Let's or just you're radio silent for months at a time. I'm worried about you. I'm going to send you messages and not expect you to respond to them. But so my next question to that is, let's say unrelated to pregnancy news, how do you support friends going through this process, knowing that you don't know so much of what's going on behind the scenes, right? You can't relate to it as someone who hasn't had to go through it. You can think about how awful it would be, right? I can hear this story from you and it's making me very emotional because I can imagine it and because I'm feeling for you. But, that's a icing on the cake of all the things that you're feeling, right? Or the tip of the iceberg. So how would friends best have supported you during this journey? Or if you're going through it again, what's best there?
I have to say my friend Casey, who doesn't have and hasn't tried to have children, she was such a good friend to me throughout all this. I think the number one thing, she's just kept checking in and would just send a text regularly and say, just thinking about you. How are you feeling right now? And she knows, again, I'm someone who's driven. So it would be what are the next steps? Because for me, I always felt better when there was a plan and I knew what was coming next.
Yeah.
So that was most helpful, I think, for me. It probably depends on the person. I think one thing that people can do is spend a few minutes If your friend's going through IVF, your friend's going through IUI, I mean, there's all these different infertility things. If they're willing to share enough about their journey, take 5 minutes on YouTube and like learn the terms. Like, what's the process, right? What comes first? Is it shots? Is it, is there a trigger shot? What does that mean? Like, I think just like, how does the egg retrieval work? Like, people have to go under general anesthesia for that. I don't think people would know that, right? I think just taking a few minutes to sort of educate yourself. Otherwise, it's sort of hard to be close to someone because you don't really like recognize what any of the steps are,
Yeah.
So again, I don't think that's like a big time investment, but it feels like if more personal, I think if people are like kind of trying to learn what it is. I think the best thing that people can do though, frankly, is like be there for your friend, but like find someone else who's gone through this. I ended up like talking to a coworker who I was not even very close with at the time, but I had known that she had gone through IVF with her kids. And I just kind of had her like just chat with me and tell me what the experience was like. And it just made me feel more comfortable going into it. But I've, talked to a lot of women who are experiencing infertility and how do they navigate it, and many of them aren't my close friends. It's friends of friends or people that I've been connected with. And, they just want someone to chat with. So I think the same, like, find your friends, but if you're experiencing this, I think find someone who's gone through it too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. You're also making me think of like, I feel like a long time ago, I wouldn't say this now. I would hope I wouldn't say this now, but I feel like long before I really understood the process, but did know people that, I mean, I've had a brief understanding of the process my whole life because my aunt, who is closest in age to, she's my dad's youngest sibling. My dad's the oldest. She's the youngest. So she's like right in between our ages, actually.
Okay.
And she's amazing. She had to go through this 20 years ago, nearly, because, so, it was very different it's similar, but different then, because she had terrible endometriosis her whole life. And so I was old enough, I was 16 when her first child was born. So I was old enough to grasp to a degree, right, what was going on. So I've been aware of the process of infertility for so long. And my aunt's story is not that dissimilar from a lot that you hear later, in that they had a very difficult time, had their first, and that was going to be it because of that journey. And they surprisingly got pregnant with their second. And then I've had other friends since then, while I'm a little bit older, but still not like fully into the process or fully understanding the process, where they were going through IVF. It wasn't working for a long time. They decide to take a break. And then because the stress is removed, they get pregnant. And you hear that story a lot. And then similar to people saying what you first said, which is like, well, it all worked out. Like you want to be like, oh, well, it's going to happen because it happens to all these other people this way. Like that's what you always hear. And I feel like that's probably the worst anecdote to ever share, because that doesn't happen for everyone. That's like 1 in a million, right?
Yeah, I think that is, again, people try to be kind and uplifting. And I think the number one thing people say is, oh my gosh, I know someone who went through IVF and then they got naturally pregnant. Does that happen all the time? Yes. The coworker I just mentioned, she naturally got pregnant years later with a baby. That's incredible. Like, I want that to happen for people. I think it is amazing. People say to me all the time, I physically cannot get pregnant without having IVF. I do not have fallopian tubes. So it is never going to, miracle is not happening to me. As great as that would be if they're going to like regrow themselves, I'm sure it'll be a case study in Texas. But I think in general, that is a thing that people say. And when you are trying to get pregnant, there's like nothing more annoying than it. Like when people say, oh, well, the next time, I'm not focused on the next time. I'm focused on now.
Right.
And just like waiting for it to happen isn't going to make it happen,
Yeah. Do you feel like what is the worst part of the process? Were the miscarrying, like, was that terrible? Cause it was like that you thought you were pregnant, then you weren't, or is it like just the sheer, like, is this going to happen throughout the whole process? Like,
I think the sheer, am I ever going to become a mother? Was the hardest part. Until my son was in my arms, there was no like sense of relief to know that he was like going to make it and I was going to become a mother.
So your whole pregnancy, you're just stressed.
Yes. And it was not the same way with my daughter because I had, a kid and I knew it was possible. That was definitely the hardest part.
Yeah.
When I woke up from that surgery and I found out that my fallopian tubes were removed and that I would never be able to get pregnant naturally, ever, was like, well, if IVF doesn't work, I don't have any other options.
Right.
My other options are to adopt. And I personally don't believe adoption is for infertile people to do only. It's a calling, a calling that I didn't have. I wanted to have my own children. Or foster, again, same situation where it's like not sort of a fair way to become a parent. And again, that's like a whole nother, you could have a whole episode on adoption.
Yes. And I will. I have friends that did that chose that path. So, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a whole sort of another thing that gets thrust on the infertility community is adoption as like a solution. And again, we're not saying that to anyone else that can have their own children, Right. And so it just feels like an unfair request. Again, I think adoption is a beautiful thing. We personally did not feel called to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. It's the friends that we have that went that route, like, I don't know that they would have said 20 years ago that was what they expected, but I do feel like things happened in that way that they were called to it because I've never seen someone like put forth so much effort and so much research and so much like the reading material, the things that they knew, like they made sure that they were going to be the best adoptive parents as possible. Yeah. And I think that takes a special person, that takes a special type of preparation to be so. So I agree with you. I think it's very unique and it's not just like, oh, you can't have kids, so just adopt one, it's not like that. So then knowing how it impacted your pregnancy, which makes a lot of sense. Like, and I do remember having this conversation with you early on, but I'm curious how it impacted you postpartum. Cause that is, I'm sure it was equally as a tough time for you. It's crazy. It's so hard. But I remember you saying, this is hard, but at least I have the cute baby to look at and like to be grateful for.
And again, this is me not belittling the postpartum experience. I haven't had a hard postpartum experience that some people do. And so, it's difficult for people to relate to infertility. It's hard for me to relate to people who've, experienced really bad postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety or, those are things I've been blessed to not like have to navigate myself. I would much rather have a kid in my arms than wonder if I'll ever become a mother. I remember, I had my son just 3 weeks before Mother's Day, and I was so sleep deprived, but I was just so thankful that he was here. And it felt surreal for like multiple months that he actually was here and it was over. And when I held him on my chest, the first thing I said to Andrew was, it's over. Like this journey that has put us through hell for 2 years is over. Like he's here, and I just felt so grateful, and I still do, like that my kids are here, and it still doesn't feel like they were in a test tube, Right. And to think that people didn't even have that option until 20 or 30 years ago is like really crazy, Crazy.
So then, oh man, I don't know how to navigate from that. Ooh, I love Wes. I can't imagine him not. So in the glimmer of looking for hope in the process, or not even hope, just like looking for upsides, like do the upsides even really feel like upsides? The fact that you can choose that your second daughter was a girl or could choose when you want to get pregnant. Like, did that make it any different?
No, it didn't. I would rather have just had my kids naturally. That said, it's hard for me to say that now because like my daughter, my son was what they call fresh transfer. So he was never frozen from embryo.
Oh, okay.
He was made in the lab, if you will. And then like when he was ready, he was placed inside me. My daughter and my other embryos were placed into a freezer and then defrosted. Well, just Abby so far. It's hard for me to say no because I wouldn't have Abby if this hadn't happened. Do you know what I mean? It would have been another baby and it wouldn't have been Wes. And so like for that, I'm grateful because it was my kids and they're everything to me. But like, would I rather have just gone on vacation and not have gone through this trauma and spent all this money and time and energy Of course I would, right?
Yeah,
I think anyone would say that about like a traumatic experience that happened in their life, you know?
totally. I wonder if this is so you can't answer this question, but I'm just thinking like the healthy component of it, like you do get to choose they're going to be healthy. And what if this going through IVF, but knowing that you can have a healthy baby versus getting pregnant naturally and having a child that doesn't, or having a child or choosing whether or not, that like, I wonder
Yeah,
the,
I think that's an interesting take because what Sam's referencing is that when you do IVF, you can pay to have the embryos tested to see if they have things like Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, etc. We did not do that testing with my son. So we found out like
oh,
all of the normal things with everyone else. We ended up defrosting the embryos and testing before we had Abby because after a lot of thought of everything we had gone through, we wanted to make sure we had a girl and we had a healthy baby.
yeah,
Um, and in the scheme of all the money we had spent, it just felt worthwhile. I have to say, my second pregnancy with Abby was much less stressful because I knew before she was ever placed inside me that I wasn't going to get to the NIPT, the testing that you get at the end of the first trimester and like find out there was like something wrong with her.
right,
And that I would maybe have to terminate the pregnancy or something like that.
yeah,
So, I'm thankful for that. I think one thing that we should keep in mind is that some couples use IVF because they know they're genetic carriers.
yeah,
And that is like a really important thing. Like if a couple knows they both are carriers for cystic fibrosis or even the BRCA gene or something like that,
right,
they may pursue to only use IVF to make sure that they do not pass any of these genetic or even terminal diseases along to their kids. That's like a very different way that people use IVF. People also use IVF all the time if, one of either the man or the woman has had, cancer,
mm,
because you can either preserve
right,
eggs or sperm ahead of procedures like that. And it's also a way that a lot of gay couples are able to have children. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's just like such an amazing invention
yeah,
that I'm so grateful for, but also, have my own faults with how painful, expensive, and
yeah,
like tiring it is. But,
right.
good outweighs the bad, I guess.
Yeah, there's multiple sides. I think it's interesting talking about, I didn't know that you didn't test with Wes. And that is fascinating because of, everything you went through, to your point, if that anything had come up. And I'm sure yours was very conscious, but I think even everybody else or at least this is my experience, you hold it subconsciously. Like I remember getting those results and not thinking about it. Like, I try to have my positive energy out there. So thinking like, of course it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And then I don't even remember where I was driving, but I remember I was driving somewhere not nearby and the doctor called me and I picked it up right away. And they were like, oh, just so you know, like everything's fine. And sobbing,
Yeah.
uncontrolled, like
It's
didn't
this
know it was
anxiety you're
there.
holding that you don't realize you are,
Just
right?
like the relief, the sheer relief that I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I was carrying that. Like just in there, that there's just probably so much stress that we're subconsciously carrying throughout pregnancy and that you are consciously carrying throughout it's wild to think about. So I didn't know that with Wes. I can only imagine all of the stress that you were holding on to for all of that. And look how healthy and wonderful and
Yes.
chill he is. Chill.
Chill is not a word I would use to describe my son.
I think his demeanor is chill. Like he doesn't have
With you, he is with people he's not as comfortable with. Not that he's
okay.
not comfortable with you, but like at home, he is a very different child.
Okay.
Yeah, which is
Because even
interesting.
when I watch him like interact with the kids, like he's just not I don't know, because my kids are pretty chill too. And I feel like when the three of them are playing together, they're all
They
just like
are. He's different again, depending on the setting. Some kids are just like
interesting.
that.
Interesting. Okay. I gotta see what I mean, I've seen him be maniac physically, but not like I need to see his maniac personality come out. Okay. The other part I want to talk about, and I feel like people maybe don't talk about this as much, is the toll that it takes on your marriage. and also the toll that it takes on the dad, because it's obviously physically, mentally, emotionally like horrible for the woman going through it, like just sheerly because you're like, my body isn't doing this, like all the things you're putting on yourself as the person who's carrying it, and you're adding hormones on top of that, so I'm sure your fluctuations are all over the place. So it's very easy, or not easy, but it makes sense for us to conceptualize how it impacts them. But I don't think we think about how it impacts the father to be or not to be, and then how that translates into how it impacts the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest thing Andrew and I have ever gone through together. I remember my mom saying the only things that matter in life are your health and your family.
Yeah.
But infertility is both of those, like, intertwined.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know how to say it without being as frank as this. Like, you have to have sex to have a baby, right? And if you're not getting pregnant, then it feels like sex has to be timed. Or I guess just it impacts your sex life. And we don't really need to get into the details about that. But how can it not if that's like how you have a baby?
Well, I'm going to make you get into the details because that's helpful for people, I think. And you obviously don't have to disclose whatever you're not comfortable with. But like, are you then not having sex because you're like, what the fuck is the point? And you're upset about it? Or
I think it depends on the couple. But like, you feel that you have to have sex during your fertile window, and like you're testing when you're going to be ovulating and things like that.
Yeah.
And then like you're hoping that it works out every month. Or it starts to feel like you're having sex because you need to try to get pregnant.
Yeah.
In a very timed effort. It doesn't feel like spontaneous or fun, which is something you've never done before unless you're trying to have a baby.
Right.
You know, and so that's hard. Infertility was really hard on my husband, but it wasn't something we really talked about that much at the time. He was trying to be really supportive for me. I was the one going to all the appointments. He was on a business trip when I had to do IVF the first time, so I did all of the drugs myself. I feel like I took a lot of it on, and I never really asked how he was feeling. Yeah. And in retrospect, I definitely would. He was trying to be so strong for me that I just didn't really see how, like, or ask, or honestly care how he was feeling, because I felt like I had like an unfair burden that I was taking as part of it. Yeah. Again, I was the infertile one. There was nothing wrong with him. And so it felt that, you know, the burden was on me in some ways. It's shaped our relationship, like, in a way that will never change, but like, we're closer now than we've ever been. And part of it is like the trauma that we went through together. As much as that sucks to say, people go through all different types of trauma and bonding experiences together. That was just what ours was, you know? Yeah. But, you know, just grateful for my husband, and he was definitely like my rock and support throughout all of it. Yeah. But it was hard. Yeah. I've never talked to him about it, but would be interested, because I have talked to some friends recently that, again, like, only the women are talking about it, right? You know, woman to woman, right? So I'm hearing that experience, and, you know, she's sharing that, like, she thinks it's hard. It's so hard on her husband, and he's not saying it because exactly what you're saying. Like, he wants to be there for her, and he knows it's quote unquote harder for her. And so, like, I don't know how you make space for that. And I feel like we need to encourage dads to talk to other dads about it. Like, when moms are talking to moms, but even not necessarily dads that are both going through IVF, but just dads in general. Because it's, you know, we can't support them in the same way. And I don't think you're expected to support Andrew during that, right? Like, I think in the moment, you're in that tunnel of those feelings and those emotions, and you're kind of blaming yourself and carrying this burden. So how can you possibly also create space to hold for someone else in a way that, you know, feels comfortable and authentic? Yeah, I think one thing that, now sort of looking back on it, is the entire time I felt this feeling of guilt that I was never going to make my husband a father. Right. When I met my husband in college, and within a few months, we had already chatted about the fact that we both, like, wanted to have, like, probably 3 kids, and, like, not making that, like, dream come true for him was, like, heartbreaking, you know? Again, I thought it was going to happen, but I didn't know for sure, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Carrying that
And I'll
weight.
be honest, I think if we had not been able to have children, I don't know that we still would be together. Like, even though he's my rock and everything, but that it was so like important to both of us that like I
Right.
feel like it would have broke us if we weren't able to have kids.
I think, yeah, I feel like that's fair. And I think there's a lot of things that it's like, without this, I don't know how we come out on the other side. And that one is like the most important, right? Like Michael and I were the same way. We were like, of course, we both deeply want to become parents. Like I didn't believe in marriage my whole life, but I knew I'd be a mother. Like, and here I'm married, so I believe in it now. But he was like, that's all that I cared about. So I can totally relate. Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so reach out to your dad friends because I don't know how to offer support there. Amanda, this has been amazing and so helpful, I think, for people, for you to share and put that out there. Do, like I said, I have a lot of friends that I talk to this about, but I can just be like a listening ear, you know? I can't necessarily offer advice or hope other than obviously always believing that it's going to work out for them in some capacity. Because I think that it will, but that's also not always the case, you know? So being a way to offer support and find friends that offer that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think if you're experiencing this, like 1 in 6 couples experience it. And if you feel
Wow.
like that you feel alone, you're not. Again, it's just because it's such a difficult thing to talk about because, like, for example, I wasn't going to tell my job that I was trying to get pregnant and it wasn't working out. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, I didn't want them to know I was trying to get pregnant because I was, like, trying to get promoted in my career at the same time. And so it
Mm,
can feel isolating at the time, but just know you're, like, not, you are not the only person going through this. And, like, there are other people in your friend group who are too, even if they, like, haven't opened up about it.
right.
I think a lot of stigma has changed around infertility in the past decade because you've started to have people like share their story online. And I
Yeah.
personally have been very vocal about it. And I think the more that people do that, the less like isolating it feels for people. And so, you know, as you feel comfortable, just like encourage people to keep sharing. So, because otherwise it feels so like truly like isolating.
Yeah. Which is interesting that you use that word because I often describe the initial postpartum feeling incredibly isolating, which is why I think it's important to find what we had. Did you feel more isolated in IVF versus
Yes,
in
but I wasn't in a group of people going through IVF where I was in a group of people who just had babies, you know?
right, right.
I think groups like that maybe do exist. It's not something I suck out at the time.
Do you think it
Um,
would be helpful for someone to do?
I don't know that it would have been for me personally. I think
Yeah,
just because everybody's infertility journey is so different. Like
yeah,
most people who get to the place where I did, who did IVF, like do 3 rounds of IUI first. Like
right,
there's just like all these steps that like just didn't
right.
apply to me because everyone's journey is just so different. So
Yeah,
for me personally, I don't think it did. If I'd go back, I would have sought support from a therapist who specializes in infertility and pregnancy loss.
that makes sense.
I think that would have been really important to me at the time. I had, when I did my transfer with my son, I called my mom and I said, if this doesn't work out, like I need to like seek help.
Mm,
Because I just knew if it didn't work out, it was going to be broken.
yeah.
And so I wish I had sought that out like earlier in my journey. You know,
Have you done
even
any?
here, if I choke up and get like teary eyed talking about it, and we're talking, I have 2 earth-side children and it's been 3 years, like it still stings that much, like all this
Right.
time later.
Have you done any therapy or
I
processing?
haven't because I feel that I have like come to terms with it,
Yeah.
but you know, it's something that if it ever feels like it comes back again and it's something I want to chat about, like I will. I did feel like a lot of the emotions I had suppressed come back when I saw fertility treatments with my daughter Abby.
Oh
Like
wow.
even just like going back into that building, I was like, oh my God, I have so many like feelings here. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
think it's so hard because again, you have to remember that you're not only going into this building with this like chip and horrible thing that's happening to you, you're also literally injecting yourself with hormones. And so the whole process is so like heightened your experience
Yeah.
because you don't feel like yourself to begin with. We're
Right.
talking like birth control. We're talking like you're literally injecting yourself with like progesterone and estrogen, which are like first
Yeah.
trimester
Right.
drugs, you
Which is
know?
interesting too, because I think like moving now that we are almost 3 years well, you had another one but I am almost 3 years after having children, being able to look back on that, because while I was postpartum, I did not think I was hormonal because I wasn't having swings. And the only thing I cried about was Winston and I like all this stuff. And I'm like, these are normal reactions. But like looking at my children would make me cry. Seeing anything about time passing would make me cry. Like, and so not just the tears, like so much else now that I'm so zoomed out was like, oh my God, of course I was so full of hormones. Of course my perspective was so different. And when you're in it and the hormones are in your body and you're physically experiencing it, you're not able to see like, oh, I'm feeling this way because my body state is altered. So to your point, like you're going through this really traumatic thing and you have so much pumped in you that's not your regular baseline that you're just, it feels like you don't have control over it. So you're just like, this is what I'm experiencing. But on the other side, you're like, yeah, it was hard and it was extra hard because my body wasn't also at its normal like operating capacity.
When you're super pregnant, people know it. Again, this is all done secret. Like I had a client who called and yelled at me when I was like going through IVF the first time, and I just started crying and I had to hang up on the phone because he didn't know what I was going through.
Right.
And him pushing me, like just put me over the edge in a way that normally would never happen, you know?
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot that, you can't understand. And it's like, to your point, it's all a lot of times happening in secret. So yeah, I think it's important to talk about. And I hope that I've gained more. I know I've gained more insight on everything and can help support friends that will continue to go through it. I hope this has helped people understand who aren't going through this, but also people feel seen that are. And yeah, Amanda is also like a wealth of knowledge. I can't even not going through IVF, like how much she now knows. Like we have a friend who's pregnant and I'm just there to be like, I love you and I can support you. But whenever she says anything and Amanda's like, oh, well, it could be this or it could be that. And I'm like, I've never even heard that word before. Like, I am like, so it's just.
You have to remember some of that's from my job because I do like healthcare communications.
I think about that sometimes.
Yes.
But when it's very pregnancy specific, I assume that it's.
I used to do pregnancy, like IVF drugs. So I like know that. And then I also used to do like postpartum hemorrhage products. So like I know a lot about just infertility and pregnancy and postpartum, like from that.
Interesting.
Again, but just like anything, my whole feed for years was people experiencing IVF, early pregnancy. And so like I've just been catered towards like learning more information, like on TikTok,
Right.
Like yours is probably like woo-woo shit that I don't get.
Oh,
like
God,
mine is like someone has a hematoma and they're in the ER and I need to know all about that. You know?
No. The like hematoma thing came up and you had all the details and I'm like, but if it was like, I'm actually experiencing another energetic plane, I'd be like, I got you.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Oh man, the algorithms, they are interesting. Well, I could ask you a million more things that I want to, but we could talk about this forever. So I am just going to thank you so much for your time and I love you. And I'm sorry that I feel like I couldn't properly support you, but baby 3, I am fully prepared for all the right things to do and say, and I can't wait. But yeah, you're the best, and can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye, honey.